Risk of Rain 2, like most games, relies on stats to keep the game feeling like it's progressing. But the way they do it varies, ranging from the League of Legends stat sticking to the situational perks in Dead by Daylight. Most games like to keep the progression feeling like it's different, and people have really cool ideas on how to keep the game feeling fresh and unique compared to other games in their genres. But Risk of Rain 2 does something that I find really interesting and I would like to talk about. Risk of Rain 2 has a great blend of both situationalism and stat boosting. I don't know if situationalism is a real word. It's a real word, but it's not really what I was talking about. From what I've seen, most roguelikes rely on just plain stat boosting, throwing in the occasional interesting item to keep the game feeling fresh and unique. In my experience, the most recent example I have is Heroes of Hammerwatch. In my experience, I barely remember any uncommon or white items in that game. Like, they're all just blending together in my head. I only remember, like, the vendor's coin. Whereas in Risk of Rain 2, you remember all of the items. Or at least I do. I remembered all the white items even when I was first starting out because they're all interesting and unique. And most of all, they all have some sort of trade-off for you to get the power that they give you. Whereas in, like, Heroes of Hammerwatch, you get all the powers for free and there's barely, if any, situational aspects to them. Now, I haven't found anything about Risk of Rain trying to do what I'm about to talk about, but it wouldn't surprise me if this was a design choice because all of them have this similar feature. Now, not all of them are like this. A lot of them are just plain stat boosts as well. Like, I think about 7 of them are just plain stat boosts. And a lot of them you could just call it plain stat boosts. Like, an ATG is just extra damage. They made it more than just stats on paper. They actually made it something different, where it's an actual model in-game, along with there's an actual missile that gets shot out of a side rocket on your shoulder, which is just super cool. It's something else I wanted to touch on because this is something really cool that the game does, and I don't think gets enough credit for it, that it actually adds the items to your character. Like, they didn't need to add these items to your actual character model, and they didn't need to make the models for every single item in the game and add it to your character, but they did it anyway because it's just fun and it's silly. It's silly to have this big pile of items on your character and just look at them and be like, wow, I need more soldier syringes. Now, this isn't to rag on the games that only do stats, by the way. I like those games. Heroes of Hammerwatch is a fun game, and it makes the other items, by comparison, feel a lot more crazy and unique. Because a lot of the red items and the blue items feel really cool to get because they're fucking interesting. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't prefer Risk of Rains over the Heroes of Hammerwatch just because it feels cooler to have. It feels cooler to actually earn your damage and earn your other abilities. Instead of just getting an extra 75% damage boost, you have to proc a ATG, which you can combine with a 4-leaf clover to get extra chances to do that. Well, maybe you're not quite earning it yourself because, again, it is still a stat boost, it's just in a unique way. You have to proc off a set of conditions just to be able to use the item in the way it needs to be used, like in the crowbar, where it gives you 75% damage boost only if they're above 90% HP. And I find it really cool that this item is always going to be stronger on characters with stronger burst potential, like Rebar Multi, or Loader's Punch, or my homie's giving Backshot. Or let's look at the Infusion, which is a really cool item where you get more HP based on the enemies you kill up to 100. It makes it feel like you're actually working towards something and earning your ability rather than just getting a free 100 HP. But at the end of the day, it's still a free 100 HP, it's just packaged differently so you feel like you're earning it yourself. Or let's look at the 57-leaf clover, which has a completely new luck system for it and one other item. Like, instead of some basic luck stat that affects the boxes and all this cool other shit, it only affects proc chances like ATGs and the daggers and ukulele and tri-tip daggers and all this stuff. And I think that's far more cool than just adding an extra percentage chance onto getting like a ukulele proc. I think it's more interesting to send it through and then if it doesn't work, send it back through instead of something like that. Now again, there are just plain stat boosted items in Risk of Rain 2. Like, obviously there's the Lensmaker glasses and the syringes and the mocha and like the armor and the furry legs. Like, they have a lot of items in the game. They're basically just plain stat boosts. Like, I'd consider the ATG a plain stat boost, but it's flavored differently so it looks more fun than it actually is. At the end of the day, they could have just made it so the enemy explodes and does 350% extra damage. But they didn't do that because it's boring, and it looks a lot cooler to have an ATG missile just pop out of your arm and just murder something. And I hear you saying that, Fossilized Ape, you're always so smart, kind, and handsome, but this seems silly. All those items improve your stats. So it's the same thing. First of all, thank you for all the compliments. I know, I'm really great and handsome and cool. But the thing is that it's about how you frame the items. Because at the end of the day, I don't remember Hero of Hammerwatch items. I really don't. I played the game, like, I could go play the game right now and then get off and not remember a single item. But A Risk of Rain has stuck in my mind even though I haven't played the game for over like 2 weeks. Because all the items are unique and they make you feel like you're doing something. And that's something I want to call attention to because I think it's an interesting design choice and I think it's an intentional design choice. But again, I've looked into it and I haven't seen them directly say it somewhere, but if you have, please link it below in the comments or something. But on my last point, I really like how a lot of these items also combo so you feel like you're doing something more than you're actually doing. Like, again, that's a big point, where you're not really doing a whole lot yourself. Like, you're using all your skill, obviously, with your character and positioning and all that. But, like, the items themselves usually take all the skill out of it. You don't need to have skill to learn how to proc a ceremonial dagger, or to use a ukulele, or to use an ATG. These all proc on their own because you're already doing your best to handle everything else in the game. But I like how some of these items combo together. Like, it's very rare because it's usually built off of like 1 or 2 things. I like the ignition tank, how it builds off of fire, so if you get it with the artificer, it's really nice to have. And it's honestly one of the best additions from the DLC I've ever seen. And the last 2 I'd like to touch on this point are the Death Mark and the ATG. The Death Mark, pretty obvious, you just have to stack status effects. But the ATG is more subtle, where it procs off the Kajiro and the Runald's band for free, where it does it all for you, which is really nice if you're playing a character like Commando, where sometimes you don't have that ability. And I really hope with this new update they add more of these combos and more of these interesting items, because in the more recent update they added stuff that was more stat boosty than I would like. But again, game design is hard, and, you know, they still have conditions where you have to be below 25% health and you lose them, which is pretty cool. Honestly, I just can't hold my excitement for this new DLC because I've been waiting for a new DLC for, what has it been, years now? I've been really excited. But yeah, I just want to make this quick video about something I really enjoyed about Risk of Rain, because I think it's something that's very slept on about the game and how much effort and attention went into making these items. But yeah, I really hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed.